Thank you very much. Thank you, Yolanda. Okay, good morning, everyone. I am Mabel Encinas. I work in the School of Social Sciences and Professions, and I'm a senior lecturer in early childhood and education studies. And I will talk about the relationship between health and well-being, music and art. And this is because that's the topic of my research. And I will present some of the links that we have found, both in the literature and in our experience working with children in earlier settings and primary schools. So I'm here for topic. I will talk about the context, and I will take some time in presenting what the context in which we are working. I will present a little bit of the literature review, a little bit with the context. I will I will discuss a little bit of the methodology, and I will come to some conclusions, presenting a little bit of data of what we have found in my research. Okay, I will start by talking about the rights. My children's rights students are here, and I wanted to start by addressing this issue. Article 24 of the United Nations Conference on the Rights of the Child talks about health in two main articles. Article 24 talks about how the rights of the child, how the child has the right to enjoy the highest attainable standards of health and well-being. And Article 27 talks about how it is the right of every child to a standard of living adequate life in terms of physical, mental, spiritual, moral, and social development. So all these two articles are the basis for the work I do. And I think this is a very important foundation of the work that I am doing at the moment, and that I have done for some years now. But children are not born in a bubble. To be honest, I thought I was going to have PowerPoint, not this tool. And okay, I did some animation in some way, but it's all right because we can still see the image. Children are not born in a bubble. Children are born in social context. And this is very important because instead of thinking about child development in terms of a biological unfolding of the youth, we need to think about child development putting together nature and nurture, and how nurture is very important for the way in which children develop. And that's at the center of the work I do. Recently, there are many studies in neuroscience, for example, in which those debates about is it nature or nurture have died, because we have found how these things come together. So, for example, child development is not this biological process. We have an emergent area of research, which is epigenetics. I am not an expert or anything in that field, but I have been reading with interest the research that has been produced in this field that recognizes how there are environmental influences in the child's life. And that then the child lives experiences, as Vygotsky used to say almost 100 years ago. These life experiences have an impact in the development of the child. We tended to think that the information in the genes was closed, was locked. And then we thought that that lock was not influenced. However, children live in a context. So we have children living in poverty, and then that has an impact in the way in which children live. Just to mention one example, but I will come to more examples of that. Okay. What I wanted to say here is that the genes, if we see the genes of a person, we used to think about this biological inheritance that we have in child development. So we were putting a lot of stress in the influence of the biological load, let's say, that a child receives at birth. However, genes are open to experience, as I mentioned, and the early experiences that a child have a long-term impact in their development. Experiences actually create chemical impact in the genes and change and open possibilities or close possibilities for the development of the child. Maybe our colleagues in human sciences or health could say more about these things, but I thought this would be an important context to think about the research I'm doing. So let me discover what I have here. Okay, so but we have this situation. We have children living in poverty. We have a society that is quite unequal. We have racism. We have a hostile environment. We have a number of issues that are marking the development of our children. So this has a big impact in their future development. We have what we call intersectionality. If you are familiar with the concept of intersectionality, it refers to the way in which different inequalities intersect and have an impact in the life of people. The concept was coined in relationship to how intersectional differences took place when, for example, women that were fighting for their rights as women were also at the same time receiving the impact of racial inequality. So the two elements overlap with each other. It's very important that we distinguish the difference between intersectionality and diversity. That's not the same. We tend to think, oh, intersectionality refers to diversity, and then we are all different, and that's what we would need to think about. However, intersectionality is a concept that has a critical edge, a very political edge, that questions that we are not only diverse, but that we live in an uneven society that has an impact in how we live in general, and in our children, in the way in which they develop. And that those inequalities, that intersectionality, has an impact in the way in which they develop. So, you know, we used to think that that development was something like unfolding, like a fabric that is unfolding, you know, from the past. That was the metaphor that maybe we had in the mind. But we need to change that metaphor because that's not really presenting what happens. As I was saying, yes, but I put it here. But we have the genes, and if this is not true that they are low, they are or not. And the early years of a person's life has a very big impact. They are foundation years for the rest of the life. And this is something that we need to bear in mind when we think about children. So thinking about the rights of children, we have to think and contrast what is the difference and the big gap that exists between the rights that they have and the reality that they live because of all these inequalities. And then the negative experiences create a lot of stress in the body. So negative experiences, for example, we have influences from the environment that could be, for example, even chemicals in the environment, like physical chemicals in the environment, or life circumstances, child abuse, but not only that, racism, poverty, gender inequality can have an impact because of the stress that creates in the child. So all the different inequalities that we have in society have an impact in childhood. Even sexuality. If we are thinking about very young children, for example, they could receive discrimination because they have two mommies or two daddies, for example. So all these discriminations has an impact in their experience. I mean, they are experiences that they live, and it has an impact in their system. So the immune system and the metabolic system are affected. This creates, for example, inflammation in the body, and that creates long-term conditions later. I suppose that some of my colleagues will talk about that. That's not my area. But, for example, there is evidence that heart disease, depression, and diabetes are closely linked to these early childhood experiences of stress. So that means that the development is affected by the brain development, but also by the development of all the other systems in the body. So the body becomes part of our culture, and the culture is an ecosystem. So that's a very important aspect that we need to consider. The body's stress response then piles up in life, and then it has consequences. So stress and burdens like, for example, racism, as I was saying, or gender inequality, or family diversity issues in terms of discrimination could have an impact in practice. So what is what we have had? I put this image because this is what we are living at the moment all over the public sector. We have had almost 13 years of conservative government. We have had a big reduction in the public expense. We have as well a lot of privatization of services. Maybe some of you will talk about that later. And that has had an impact in the way in which services are offered. Even universities have been impacted with the cost as well, with the large fees for students, and they have as well. They have impacted in the way in which we consider education. In some way, it seems that sometimes we have moved from being educators. I mean, I'm talking about colleagues here and myself. Yeah, we are educators, but sometimes we are seen as providers, and that confusion creates a lot of tensions and stress in the profession. So it is clear that we need to rethink about what is happening, but then how does it fit with children? That's what I want to say. On the other hand, we have that positive relationship as well as nurturing environment, learning opportunities, as well have an impact in the experiences they are experienced by children, and they have an impact in their development. Therefore, all these things are important. And because of that, it's very, this is the very center of what I work with. On top of everything, we have hope. And I know some colleagues here have been working on this and on that. But then if we think about education, the lockdown has disrupted education. The children's learning and development at all levels have been affected. This is according to... Really? Yeah. Oh. So, okay, COVID affected, and it is documented, so we need to move on. Really? I have to pass a video. Sorry. So what can we do in education? So what I did is I looked, the Cultural Alliance, Cultural Learning Alliance, has found that art-rich environments are very important for child development. So that can create a nurturing environment. So in education, what we have is, we have this. I have been working with a charity that is called, I don't know if I have hyperlinks, but then I will presenting the video I have prepared. It's a 2-minute video, but it shows what I did. I'm working with Musica in partnership with the agenda of giving back to the kids. So they have been working with music. I have been working with art. I will not stop there. I will just pass to the next slide, possibly. And we met each other because I am a poet, and they are musicians. So we met and we found that we could build a partnership to work together. And what we have been doing is we have been working on intervention. So this is what I have done in terms of art. So I will skip it. We have worked in a collaboration, yeah. And this collaboration has been of how can I support their strength and how can we build something better and newer together. So they have been working with early years practitioners, and they have interventions in early years in primary school. So they have music sessions, they have training for early years and primary practitioners, they support the parents, and I have been working with them. I started by observing what they are doing already, and we are working on improving their project. I supported them applying for funding, so they got funding for increasing the project, and also I have applied for funding about what I need to do to work with them. So we have been working together, and the idea is that we will continue working. So we have joint efforts. We need to systematize the process of evaluation, but also improve the interventions that we have in early years and primary schools. So findings so far. Again, here I will be very brief, saying that we have found that children, I could not detail the intervention, but I mentioned a little bit. But we have found that children, the program with which we intervene in early years and primary schools have supported the development of children in language and communication and personal, social, and emotional development. We have found, for example, how children gain confidence by the program because they can think when they cannot do it, when they cannot talk sometimes. We have a case, for example, of a Ukrainian girl that didn't speak one word in English, so she always spoke to the practitioner in Finnish. But then, when the musicians started coming, the girl started singing in English. So singing in English was the first activity that she did in English, and she gained confidence. And also children have developed vocabulary, they have developed attention to listen, and other abilities that we promote in the early years foundation stage. What else? We have worked with practitioners. Practitioners have improved their work. We support them with apps in early years and primary school. We have an app, or well, this is musical skills. They have an app already for parents, and we have been working with how to build better relationships with the communities, with the parents, in partnership. So just to finish, I'm sorry for the rushing of the last segment. I will read a poem, and then we can come to questions. My poem is called Your Child. I hope it's so. I'm not a result from the past, from an intentional or an unintentional past, for which I am here. I'm not only hope, I'm not only a future. I'm also a present, an interdependent being of the earth, active and strong, a being full of beings, a citizen of the world, a human. I'm not only a survivor of collateral damage, I have rights. I'm the primal activist of the world in search of a renewed life. I'm a child, your child. Yours, although we look different. Yours, although you are not my biological parent. Yours, although I come from another latitude. Our lives are inherent. I'm your child, and depend on you, and upon whom your survival, your life, depends. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mabel. Can we have, are there any questions for Mabel this morning? All right. Thank you for a very interesting, colourful, and very presentation. Are there any questions for Mabel? Yes.
Yes, the children, how do they benefit in terms of, is it just social development, or have you also seen some benefits in improving the confidence in the community?
We have observed differences in several levels. In terms of child development, the Erini Foundation stage presents 7 areas of child development. All of them come together, so we cannot separate them really. So depending on what area is focused, you will find progress. We have been only monitoring 2 areas, which is language and communication, communication and language, and personal, social, and emotional development. In those 2 areas, we have found differences. We have found, as I was saying, that children gain confidence, children learn vocabulary, they learn how to listen, they learn how to have terms. Some of the music, some of the songs are call and response songs, so children have to enter in a dialogue in the songs. And then the practitioners have reported in the progress reports how children have had an impact in terms of development. Also, of course, as I was saying, everything is how to say, holistic. So in that sense, for example, a child could have, for example, development in terms of understanding the world, depending on the content of the song. So, but we have only monitored these 2 areas, and we have found these things. For example, confidence, for example, a better way of relating to each other, the fact that children start speaking before another thing. And with parents, we have found that maybe for parents, it's a bit awkward if their language is not English, to speak English to their children, but they can speak English together. So the app that is for the parents has actually created more links and partnership between parents and religious settings and families. So that's some of the things that we have.
Questions from about? Oh, yes,
Isn't this music that you're using in podcast art and what form does that take?
Well, at the moment, in the future, from September, we will be working with the 2 projects. I will be working with the 2 projects. I will be working in music with Musico Musica, and I will be working in my own project that is an art-based board game. But so far, we have been working with music, and that's what we have been observing. I won't go into the other project at the moment, but maybe later in the classroom we can discuss that.
In terms of instruments that you do, instruments that you sing songs in?
In principle, they sing songs, but they have percussion as well. And hopefully in the future we will have other kind of instruments. It's not formal teaching of music, it's just expressional, an expressional approach. And we give a lot of training to the practitioners so that they can work with the parents, they can work with the children, they can create environments in which they work together.
Oh, yes, one here and then one back.
Yeah, I'm on the earlier practitioner, so with the market and nothing to do. We spend as well. We have like one for the instance, and we have good teachers, and a commission. We've got the board of just the ones on the survey, and we do things with the technical communication.
Oh, that's lovely. I think that's in the same line of what I am doing. In this case, for example, some of the songs that Musico Musica has composed, written, they are songs that include several languages and the participation of children. Like, for example, how do you say hello in French, in Ukrainian, in Swahili, in maybe Nahuatl or any other language.
One at the back, Owen.
They could, but because I work in early years in primary education in general, so that's why, that's why we are not really, I don't know exactly, but there is evidence because I have read reports of evidence of improvement in people, in older people, or in people of different kinds of groups. Definitely.
Okay, I think we're done on time now. Thank you very much, Mabel. Thank you. Okay. So the next speaker is Dr. Nyby, Senior Lecturer in Applied Social Policy and Practice, talking about gender equality in parenting, the case of Finnish party politics. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Not bad, how are you?
Good. Just looking at, collaborate, goes back into lockdown there, so.
Oh, right, okay, a bit of a flashback.
It's a little bit of a flashback. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? All right, in the back as well. Thank you for inviting me to come and join you in this very interesting conference that I have not heard of. So I've been here in the house now for a few years, but I have not paid attention to it. But it's very interesting to be here. For those who don't know me, I'm Josefine, and I'm a senior lecturer in applied social policy and practice. I work within the criminology, sociology, politics and international relations subject area. It's a mouthful. And I have my thesis is social policy. My thinking for this presentation today is that I have not focused on well-being per se, or that is what I thought until I started to reflect on my work that I have done and really start to think about it from a health and well-being perspective. It's a little bit small at first now, but we'll move on from it, so apologies. And my presentation is not as colorful as Mabel, so I'm so sorry. If I just go to, yeah, that's absolutely collaborate. If I, rather than presenting a particular piece of research, I would like to present some of my research in terms of social policy. And I have a few strands of research that I'm interested in, but my main research is in family policy, and what I mean by that is the parental leave policies and early childhood education and care policy. What I did for my doctoral thesis is I looked at what reforms have taken place in the parental leave policies and in the early childhood education and care system in Finland from 2007. So it kind of was a shock yesterday when I realized 2007 is now more than 10 years ago, but that's where we are now. And my angle in looking at these reforms is more about the politics of them. And I'm not talking about the politics in terms of how are things reformed, what influences, well, yeah, I do have some included influences, but in the sense of the politicization. So I focused on the role of ideas. And what we mean by political ideas is, for example, austerity, social investment policies, but also freedom of choice and gender equality. And now they touch a little bit on gender equality, or more gender inequality. And I started to think then that we talk in Finland, there's more talk about gender equality and promoting gender equality rather than decreasing gender inequality. So that was a small, an interesting little detail. So why in the world am I interested in looking at political ideas and politicization of a particular topic? Well, politicians are quite interesting. Political ideas shape very much how we live in society in terms of what is prioritized. And I'm sure you might be colleagues in health now who know how much that has changed the past few years. So obviously it's about resources, and these resources are not necessarily reflecting the needs all the time. And this is where I have kind of tried to step back and look, what are
the political ideas that is being pushed when trying to shape social policy. Oh yeah, I forget to collaborate. Okay, so obviously gender equality rather than gender inequality is very central in the Nordic countries, and this is why I'm also focusing on this in terms of parenting. So Finland being a country up north, it's very cold. We have very little snow this year, but it's still not cold. We have equality in terms of parenting, in terms of caring responsibilities, has been a political agenda since the 1970s. And the reason being is, well, first of all, equality between sexes, but also in order to support the child. In terms of welfare model, if you will, we Finland has a dual earner, dual carer model. So that means that particularly when it comes to the caring of young children, that should fall equally on both parents. And interestingly, in some 6 months ago now, a recent reform was put. There was a reform on the parental leave system in Finland. So it was changed to what we call 1+7+7, which means 1 month before you give birth, you have a parental leave or maternity leave, and then each parent has 7 months off. And you can transfer some of this amount between the parents, and if you're a single parent, you get all those 14 months. And then of course we have 22 months after home care allowance. So yes, in Finland, you can indeed stay at home caring for a young child until that child is 3 and get paid for it. So it's a slightly different system. The reason here is partly gender equality, but also to decrease poverty. And I was recently involved in a very exciting project about inequalities. So I have a chapter in this book. It's available if you're interested in reading it. But if we kind of move away from that particular population or publication, when I started to think about well-being in terms of my publications, I started to think about what is it that has to do with the driving forces. And that's where I kind of found the family well-being. But we need to obviously say that before that, there was a lot of, since 2007, there has been a lot of austerity measures in Finland as well. Finland was in recession for 7 years after the financial crash. So naturally there was, or not naturally, but this is slightly less austerity measures compared to the UK, but there was austerity measures there as well. Equality has been very central as well in the drivers of reform, as well as the social investment policies. And these are the ideas about investing in children and investing in the future. A critique of the social investment paradigm is, I'm sure many are familiar with that, seeing children as becoming rather than being, which I think is a Mabel poem as well. So why? Or another reason, shall we say, why it's been interesting, or these reforms have been pushed, is to pursue family well-being. In Finland, there's about 8 parties that are the large parties. So there's always a coalition government. So at the moment, we have 5 parties in coalition. And these parties usually have a separate agenda when it comes to children or families. So there would be a few parties that would have particularly focused on child well-being as well. But if they don't have it, that's also not unusual. So I was thinking then, where can we find this well-being? I think it is in Finland largely, when we talk about well-being, societal well-being and family well-being, we talk about gender equality. This is what politicians really push for and work with, and the aim to gain well-being. It's quite interesting in the case of Finland, since there are so many parties. You can see that parties on the center left, they are actually more positive to equity, so not equality, but rather equity, and they're proponents of positive freedom. In other words, the state rules everything. So the state steps in and decides who is to take care of a child at what point, because this is for the best interest of the family. And of course, when it comes to other issues as well, but if I'm now focusing on only this. Whereas the political parties on the center right, they're positive to equality rather than equity, and proponents then of negative freedom. So the state should not get involved in terms of dictating which parent should stay at home caring for a particular child or for their child at a particular age. So this is quite an interesting one, and I have an upcoming publication about this as well, and the discussion on equity versus equality when it comes to the parental leave system. And I just have two examples here of how you can see what politicians, an example of how they express the importance of happiness or well-being among families. So the first quote, which is, "Together with social partners, we will achieve an ambitious parental leave reform that supports the well-being of families. The objective is for leave and care duties to become more evenly distributed between parents, and the reform will give mothers and fathers an equal quota of leave months and the home care allowance, which is what you receive when the parental leave period ends, that 22-month period, if you remember. That this home care allowance then continues in its current form, and this was in the governmental program of 2019. But we can see already in 2010 with the Green Party in their child policy program, they believe that a more equal sharing of care responsibilities will give us happier families with more endurance in relation to the everyday life. So well-being among families, and particularly children, have been very central in the family policy in the Nordic countries in general, but in Finland in particular. Thank you. So, as I mentioned earlier, the understanding of well-being of families among Finnish political parties could be said to be basically two things, and that is employment, women and men alike, and mainly this is to alleviate poverty, but also equal division of parental leave period, and this is to enhance well-being of parents, children, and families alike. So thus, when we talk about gender equality in the Nordic countries and in Finland, it is so much more linked to not just linked to or focused on individuals, but rather a society as a whole. And I just have some references here if you're interested in looking some of this up. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Josefine. Questions?
I think when I'm thinking around if you can that in consequence of how do you want to do information, which are obviously very important in terms of child development to have this in your life. I think is there any other areas that having this equal distribution of that being currently, I don't know, in terms of society more at large, apart from the clear benefits and the performance and so on. Apart from that, in terms of gender relationships, are there any other examples that are seen from this policy? Like in the violence, I mean, all areas of gender relationships.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. This is the area that I've focused on, so I'm not too familiar. But of course, we have quite a big. When you mentioned gender violence, we have quite a big challenge with that in Finland. And also the distribution of in terms of, or the division, shall we say, of what fields men and women tend to go into in terms of employment. And this parental leave policy, if I can just go back to that, because it's also linked to the employment sector. The idea here is that if we normalize that fathers also stay at home caring for their children, employers will be more positive towards giving the parental leave to the father. They have to, but now when it's 7 months, they have to take out 4 months leave. So it's the idea of normalizing what we refer to as death row in Finland. I don't know if that answers the question, but another thing as well with the children and kind of trying to create an equal start. Last year it became legislation that every child has the right to a hobby paid for by the taxpayer. Trying to kind of create as an equal start as possible.
How does that work?
I don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
I don't know yet. Well, I would assume that it's the local authorities that have to make sure that we have these clubs, whatever it's sports clubs or whether that be some kind of art or something like that.
Good.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Yeah, okay, sorry.
It's very interesting and very nice your thinking. But just wondering, another government has this policy, they want to establish this kind of mentality. How is it perceived by the public though?
It's interesting. So this kind of division, equal division of the parental leave policy has been on the political agenda for about 7 years. And we have each year a big kind of survey of parents, of parents, and in 2011, mothers were very hesitant to actually letting the father be in charge, if you put it that way. So that was quite interesting how it actually differed between the political idea of gender equality, this is what ought to be done, rather than it's kind of top down, rather than bottom up. And mothers were very, very hesitant. So that's interesting. However, it's been received very positively now. So I think there's something that happened in the last 10 years. So even the more conservative parties in Finland now support some kind of more equal distribution. Yes. Yeah. That's a big one. Yeah. That's a good point.
Take one more question.
Is that in Finland or is it just parents stay with children?
Yeah, it's a good point. We don't want to make anyone unemployed, so we need to have someone to take care of the children. School actually only starts at 7, in Finland. So and you don't have to stay at home with your child for 3 years. But school, so education starts at 7. I think it's 4th year, is it? Yeah. So there's still, 2 years there. And most children will go to preschool when they're about 2 years old. And let's not talk about the fees, because they're very, 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 very low compared to what they're here. We could have another discussion on that in a minute. But yeah, so there is still this, that sector is huge in Finland.
Is that very closely to pay the
Mm. I'm not sure how much it is here. It would be quite low as well in Finland, and there's a massive debate trying to raise the salaries, to increase the salaries, and make it more attractive. But my mom was to work in her public education care for 40 years, so it's been interesting having that discussion.
Thank you very much. We're going to have to move on to that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on now to our next speaker, Dr. Capalbo, who is sports psychology. Right.
Good to go?
Yeah, 15 minutes and then 5 minutes break. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, Dr. Lucas Capalbo, as introduced, I am working in sports psychology and coaching. And what I have to talk to you about today is a mixture of a little bit of practice and also research, and how I've been attempting to combine both for the last decade. The reason why I'm interested in this topic is because I've been a youth athlete my entire youth, I would say, but I didn't have a very great experience as a young person in sports. I wasn't the greatest, I wasn't the best. Some of my friends were not the best, and not the greatest. And we kind of got neglected by a lot of coaches because they only focus on that 1%. That one kid that's really good, that's getting all the attention, and everybody else is just missing an opportunity to enjoy, to make friends. So I don't remember a single day a coach turning to me and saying, Lucas, why don't you try this technique instead of that one? Or you're skinny and tall, why don't you try as a goalkeeper? Or why don't you go play volleyball? To try to find something that I would experience a positive days of positive practices in sports. But instead, you're like, okay, you 10, pass to that kid, and let's try to score. So that's what I'm trying to do, is to try to focus on the coaches. So the experiences of young people, or a little better, so they can look back in the past and say, like, hey, I had a great coach. He or she taught me this, taught me that, and now they can be a better person because of those 1 or 2 lessons that they shared with them in the past. And hopefully also to never go away from sports, from physical activity, and that's my contribution to society. So if you know that sports have the good side of it, and football specifically is called the beautiful game, because there are some beautiful things around football if done correctly. For example, research has shown that participation in sports can help young people increase their self-control, also help them cope with stress, and then also teach them about social responsibility. However, on the other side of it, there's also some ugly parts of football. that sometimes we don't talk about it, but if you're around sports for just a little bit, you can kind of take on these things, which is also associated practice of sports with increased stress, burnout, loss of motivation. And some studies in the U.S. with student athletes in high school, we even found that there was increase in alcohol abuse after so much pressure the coaches are putting on the children. And one of the elements that is very crucial, fundamental for us to try to achieve more positive sides or positive outcomes from that practice versus the negative one is dependent on the coaches. Are the coaches prepared? Are the coaches there for the right reasons? Are the coaches understanding of what their mission is? That is not only to focus about that 1%, but also to focus on the 99%, which is the majority of people that will or may not become professionals, but as I always say, unless something really bad happens in their lives, they will become adults. They will have a profession, and what is the heritage that we want to leave with them in the end. So that's why I focus mostly on the coaches, because I believe that's where we can find the biggest impact. This is the current situation in youth sports, especially at the grassroots level. Grassroots means community level, amateur level, where kids are not there to become professionals. They're just there to spend their time and learn one or two things from the game they play. This is around the world, but specifically in London. We're going to find 4 pitches. I played a match with my under 15 boys team 2 weeks ago, and I told my player, did you bring your hiking shoes? Because the pitch was completely like unlevel and very bad. A lot of flat footballs. So we go to away games, and then we try to play, and the kids are always like, coach, this ball is flat, this ball is flat. And then we have to get our footballs, pump them, put them on the pitch, because the other coaches are just not caring about it. Sometimes they don't even bring footballs, and in football, if you're the home team, you're the one providing the football. But when we go to play away, then the home team don't even bring a football to a football match, which is insane. The next one is a lot of coaches who are abusive. They're shouting at kids, they're training kids as if they were adults ready to go into the Olympic Games. I do believe they have the right intentions in mind, because they're there sometimes, most of them are volunteers, just sharing their time and not being paid. But unfortunately, some of them don't know what it is to coach and what it is to coach correctly when it comes to different age groups and different goals that they want to achieve. So they might completely ruin someone's experience and then get the kids away from sports forever. Because of that, the ineffective and coaches are not really well prepared. The sessions look like a mess. So a lot of kids are standing still, they're forming long lines, there are very little touches on the football, which kids are perceiving that this is not fun. Like, I'm cold here, I'm not touching the football, I'm barely learning anything. So it's very likely that whenever that kid has an opinion or can manifest their opinion, they would say, Mom, Dad, get me out of here, I don't want to be part of it. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So I've been working with a club in the community for 2 years now called Bloomsbury Football Foundation, which was a great match for me because the club was trying to put something that is different at the community level, which was really in line with what I see the world of youth sports to be, which is valuing the professionals, giving a quality session, so kids are more likely to stay with us and then improve some areas I'm going to share in the future. So the goal of my presentation today is just to showcase what are the initiatives that we've been doing so far at the football club in order to make sure that the coaches are better prepared to put on sessions that are fun, engaging, so kids can stay, invite their friends, and then be part of something bigger than themselves. So I'll share a video about our club.
A local charity which provides professional standard football training to London's most vulnerable children. We know that the price is often a barrier to participation in sport, particularly for lower income kids. That's why all our sessions are either free or charged on a pay what you can afford basis. We never turn a child away, and we reach 5,000 of them each and every week. but to continue supporting the most disadvantaged children in our society. Bloomsbury needs your help. The pandemic has triggered a public health crisis among London's children. Low rates of supporting participation have led to sharp rise in obesity and mental health problems. At Bloomsbury, we've seen firsthand the devastating effects this has had on families, particularly those with poor backgrounds. We are fighting back by seeking to increase the scale of our Activated Estates programme, which provides free weekly training sessions on estates across London. We're ensuring that all children can use football as a vehicle for improving their physical and mental health. We have the ambitious aim of activating 100 new estates, engaging up to 3,000 inactive children by the end of 2023. But we can't do this alone. In order to make this a reality, we need your support. Donations are a crucial part of ensuring that we continue to enrich your life. Our impact is greater than just football. Help us continue partnering with schools to support children across London. Help us keep providing free and subsidised care. Help us expand our dedicated sessions for disabled children and young refugees. Help us to give all children a fair shot. We are
All right, so that can show that just because it's a foundation, it's a charity, it doesn't have to be as bad as we see right now in the field. So I'll show you what the secret for Bloomsbury actually is. That it's doing differently than other clubs are doing, and I hope, and we hope as an organization, that other clubs can learn from us and also do the same thing. We're not trying to be the best ones. We're trying to change the game. So the whole society around sports and sports can improve. So this is how it pretty much works. So our CEO, Shirley, had an idea about we're not putting a club together that is different, and it's putting quality sessions, quality coaches so kids can have a better time, regardless of their ability to play or to pay. And then he got an investment from one of the parents that he was coaching at the time, and then he used that money to hire coaches who could do two things. One, coach. Two, anything else around the admin part of the business. So instead of just having one person running the whole admin, we would have coaches who were able to do their work on the pitch with the children and football, and then they also had a dual, I'll say, task or work in the admin. So for example, when I started, half of my time was coaching the boys and girls. The other half of my time was writing grants to try to get more money and to make it more active, even more for business. So that way, we were able to bring good people at a full-time job, so they could dedicate their 40 hours or less or more only for that thing, which is a huge problem in London, where coaches just come in for 1 hour and do their thing and then go away to their other job. So that was the biggest difference that we were able to make. We generated some funding, which created an opportunity for us to start giving provisions for children. And then by bringing more children, and we have a pay what we can style, so kids who come from a better background, they pay the full whacker, they pay the whole thing. And then kids who are from different backgrounds financially, they pay what their family can see that they're paying. And we attract kids from all over the workshop, from the richest kids I've ever met in my life to kids whose mom and dad are still struggling to find a job. We generated money, and when we put it back into the adults, into the professionals working there, so we can make them better, we can bring better people, so we can give better provision of football, generate more money, bring better professionals, and then create that cycle where we're always sustainable, having great professionals, delivering great practices, which will attract more children, and then it goes like that. So these are some of the things that we are doing. So we do constantly, every week, a CPD, continuous professional development work with our coaches. So we cover things around tactical aspects, so the football, actually the X and O's of the game. We bring external people to talk about psychosociological aspects, like how to improve the motivation of your athletes, how to increase communication between the coach and the athlete. We also do have some sessions around physical aspects, so how to get players to run faster, how to get players to get stronger. So these people are helping us to improve our capacity. Also professional aspects, so we bring people to talk to us coaches. A lot of our coaches are very young, about how to write a CV, how to market yourself, how to do well in the job interview, because we know that we're not the end destination for most coaches. So hopefully we can come out of our club, have that Bloomsbury football stamp on them, so we can impact our generations of coaches in the field. And then the last one is about personal aspects. So we bring external people to talk to our coaches about personal finances, about investment, and also mental health and well-being for them. So this is a session for our coaches where we brought a blind footballer, which was teaching us how to coach kids with visual impairment, which was very cool. The other thing that our club does is to further support us into becoming better coaches. So here's myself in my coaching license, which was fully sponsored by the club, which is a charity. And we were able to make sure that we invested money on the professionals so we can get better and better, so the few can get better. So there are some financial incentives to attend events. There's sponsored coaching license. We get a free gear, so everyone is wearing Nike, the proper equipment. There's not those coaches coming in with headbands and they're all their necklaces and they're all like they're worse than the kids. So we have a code of conduct, we have a code of our outfit, so we're showing professionalism from the moment we step onto the pitch. So we are different in terms of that. We have opportunities for new initiatives. So if you have an idea, you pitch it to the board of the team, and they're very likely to support you and then let that kind of grow. We have mentoring for more mature coaches to the younger coaches. We have roundtables and debates about different topics that help us kind of engage in conversations, and also mental health support that we have conversations with coaches who are maybe struggling because of different things regarding to their profession or their life, so they can make sure that we're not only taking care of the kids, but we're taking care of the adults who are being an impact for those things. Very confusing here, but the way you look, but this is something that we wrote together with the club, which was a way for us to bring what the literature is saying about youth sports, and then put in a formula, a framework where coaches come in and they have a visualization, they have a visual of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Very quickly, we start here on the needs. So these are all the needs that we believe, according to the literature and our experiences, that kids, especially millennials, have. The barriers to achieve are usually access and financial, which is what we're trying to tackle. Once the kids come in, they have these two sets of provisions. One of the engagement, so they come in, they have a sample, they try the football session. If they like it, we're trying to convince them to be on a regular participation, because we know that regular participation will most likely improve their lives in the aspects that I'm going to talk on the side. We always try to do everything in a positive environment where the opinions are valued, everyone is respected, but they're being challenged. Don't think that they're all coming soft, but we're being challenged. We try to find that balance between the challenge and the sport. And then we see sport as a microcosm of society, meaning that sport has failures, it has rules, it has challenges, and society has those things as well. We try to show them in a smaller version in sports that can also be applied in life. And the final thing, these are the things that we're trying to accomplish to get out of them from using the platform of football. These are the outputs for every session they leave. We want them to leave with these things in 3 years. And if they are with us in the regular participants for a longer time, we're more likely to promote these things that will help them not become footballers, become people first, and football themselves. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions for Lucas? One here first, and 1 second.
We have a program called Bears, which starts, if I'm not mistaken, it's around 4 to 6. We'll be running around and it looks fun. it's hard to coach them because it's like, oh, you need to it's kind of tough.
We've got one over there, then we'll come here, and then we'll come here. Okay, so did you have your hand up over there? Oh, you did at one point. You obviously were thinking you were on the Stay here.
Yeah, so the first thing that we do, there's not a secret for that. But the first thing we try to do is just create a structure that discourages that. So for example, if we see any parent just kind of coming out of the woodwork and trying to do something negative, we try to address it right away and not let that become a recurring thing. But we've been very lucky that because the structure is so positive, that parents kind of adjust to that. Whereas we go play some other teams, I mean, 5 minutes into a game, we're like, oh my God, their parents are insane, like racial slurs and shouting at the kids. So there are some moments where some parents kind of go out of where we believe it's supposed to be the right behavior, but we try to address the best way possible. Not always we find a solution, but at least have them be recorded. Because our expectations are very clear. We're not trying to get anyone to become professional. We want them to, our logo, our motto is, we want every child to play their World Cup final. Whatever the World Cup final is. If it's just a match with the club team when they're adults, or if it is the actual World Cup final for their national team. So, yeah, so we keep it very humble, which is great.
One more question.
No, not yet. So that has been the step that I've been trying to push for our organization, but we haven't had the time. Definitely, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
For research,
Yeah.
There are 2 more questions actually. Can I squeeze those in before we go to coffee break? Is that okay? So one here and then Orin, I think you have your hand up.
So you're based in, because one of the biggest challenges in London is to find a proper pitch, especially in central London. So we rent a lot of facilities in different schools around North London. So we're mostly in Islington, Camden, and Westminster. And most of our marketing team is really good, and we're putting a lot of things in social media. But the best recruiters for our club are the kids themselves. Like we call them agents. They always, oh, we need a defender. Can you find someone? And they go, oh, we go into Polo. And then they bring the kids, and then they're the best agents. So word of mouth is the biggest one.
Final question then, Orin. Of using skilled coaching professionals as agents with child
No, we haven't even scratched the surface because it's an opinion that might be controversial, but unfortunately, I love our field, but one thing I need to be very aware of is just that we don't get the best professionals. Because at least I'm from Brazil, and then back home, if you study physical education, basically you're a renegade, you're non-academic, you're that person who wants to roll the ball. And unfortunately, that stereotype sometimes is true. Now we have professionals that they're really intelligent in the game, but they're not kind of putting themselves out there in terms of understanding the bigger picture, which is, listen, focus on the 99%, like give them a chance. But this is not happening. I feel like that's one of my missions in my life is just try to make sure that we can extract more from coaches and see that we have a huge platform that kids love, and a lot of us are misusing it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Lucas.
Yeah,
thank you.
Okay, thank you, and thanks for the organisers for inviting us to this conference. I think it's very good idea to have good collaboration between our two research centres and departments. So, one of my talk today is what I've been doing on free sugars. Some of this was accidental, it's caused by the COVID crisis, and a lot of it was, but not accidental, intentional. But it ended up working out pretty well in the end. So for those of you who don't know what free sugar is, so this is the official definition from SACN, the Society for Advancement Committee on Nutrition. This is how we talk about it. And these are all added sugars in food and drinks and sugar present in pudding, syrups. The key there is added sugars. So it implies that the foods we're talking about are being processed in some way. They're not natural products being processed. Added sugars to them. Okay. So the commonest ones, and one you probably know about, is sucrose. The sucrose is molecule here, so the disaccharide, the two molecules of monosaccharides, molecule of glucose, and molecule of fructose. That's the commonest form of sugar. It's found in all your sugar is in your coffee. Just now, sucrose is sugar present in the biscuit potatoes, as well. Again, processed foods. And the issue is that due to overwhelming evidence over the last 20 or so years, that consumption of excess free sugars and added sugars contributes to deleterious health effects. So basically, it contributes to weight gain, obesity, and comorbidities within that, so diabetes, or fast diseases, stroke, etc., etc. A lot of this can be put down to the consumption, overconsumption, should I say, of free sugars. So back in 2015, SACN again, we changed the recommendations in such that the maximum that we should be eating as adults is 5% for energy. And that's similar to the recommendations for children development. Slide there, you see that in adults, 7 plus, it's about 7 cubes, 30 grams. For children, 5 cubes, or 20 grams. That's per day. So, free sugars, and I hide the word free because I think free is a nasty word really. Because free makes you think it's free. You can eat almost what you want. It's free. So, my opinion, I think it's the wrong word for free sugars. The added sugars. That's what they are. They've been added to the food once it's been processed. And the issue is that it increases energy density and excess energy to the foods. Energy, as you know, from thermodynamics, pretty much destroyed, it has to go somewhere. And in this case, it tends to form excess fat, body fat. It just says about to make you feel full, it doesn't make you feel fuller. You may notice yourself, if you're in a Coke, the drinks are available, if in a Coke, it doesn't make you feel full. It's empty calories. No nutrients in there at all, apart from the sugar. Some of the evidence here is very recent analysis in systematic review, 2022, so it's not off the press release, but they show that, I don't know if you can see the word in here, but they show that portion sugar, sweetened beverages, like your kind of Coke, lemonade, for example, is equivalent to 0.4 kilograms of body weight. each portion, each kind of pork is covered this amount for the day from the on in excess, which is a lot. So how do I get involved in this then? So I kind of got involved in this accidentally, really. So back in 2010, I got involved in the food stamp efficiency for the project, which was to develop a biomarker for sugar intake. We use a technology called metabolomics, which profiles all metabolites in the sample. And we're looking at something that is dose responsive to sugar. But the issue is that how to address people's sugar intakes is how to measure it. And we're relying on food diaries, food questionnaires, but generally they're not very sensitive on it. They won't lie. They won't say that in the report. They will lie. Where if you measure in blood or urine, they can't lie. That's what we're trying to do, and what we found quickly in this acute study was that we found this chemical called uraconic acid, which was dose responsive to sucrose. So the more sucrose that we consume, the more uraconic acid was present in our plasma and our urine. And the idea was that we want to go further into this, validate this biomarker in a chronic study, because I was getting from prize, of the free studentship, but then COVID hit. And so we couldn't even work. So that was something else instead. So basically, students trained into looking more at accessibility and influence on health parameters to online databases. So we look at the NDS database. So this is the National Diet and Nutrition Survey. It's been going on for since the early 90s, actually. So it's a cross-sectional study of the UK population's diet. They pick people at random, and these people they choose at random. They have a random sampling of households in the UK from the 1990s. They choose you at random, and then there's an interview where the nurse will come to your house, they'll interview you, what your food choices, you'll compute for your food diary, and if you're willing, you do a blood sample and a urine sample. And for a blood sample, we'll measure what is your clinical markers, usual things like cholesterol, triglycerides, glucose, HbA1c, and inflammatory markers. And also they measure you on metrics, so you know height, weight, for example, etc. And also the other way. So the massive amount of data, most data is free. Most data is free. Everybody can access this data. You know, you can go out there this afternoon and access the UK data service, get this data and have a look at it. So we did this and we chose the Wellbeing program from 2008 to 2017 as an example. And this comprises, we only want to look at the adults in the first instance. So we chose all the adults before, so that was about 60-40% mixture of males and females. This is about 5,000 particular. So we've got the data on demographics, nutrient analysis, the food choices, foods that are consumed, plasma metabolic and clinical markers, metrics, and now we use statistics, where basically generalizing modeling, linear regression, use blood sugars as a predictor, to predict these markers, and all our measurements we corrected for several factors like age, gender, BMI, energy intake, physical activity, and social state. Right, and so just look at the consumption of free sugars that we here. So that left-hand side of the slide, you've got the major sugar groups: low sugars, free sugars, glucose and fructose. If you look at the profile for a time period 2008, 2020. It's not that much, you can say, sort of trends, no really trend that hits you in the face. There is a slight dip in the intakes from 2014. Remember, this second report on carbohydrates tell us not to eat certain carbohydrates came out in 2015. Sugar tax that came in 2016. It's low 2018. Now it's a movement to extract it. So that's the intake. But if you look at the percentage of energy, and that's probably 5%. That's what we're consuming. Males and females, around 11.5%. More than double what we're supposed to be consuming. That's back to 2017. Remember, we're getting yet of currently, that's waiting on publication, but apparently it's gone down to closer to 10%. Still, miles away from 5% that we're supposed to consume. Remember, the government had their targets that we're going to be reducing intake by as much by 2020. It's now 2023. So we went on to look at the effect of looking at people below and above the recommendations. Okay. Recommendation adults 30 grams a day. And the first interesting findings, so those things that we thought would increase actually are decreased, actually decreased. We've got BMI, I've got left there, BMI, see, BMI is actually significantly decreased. Lower in those consuming more. Glucose, we expect might show a slight increase, but a slight decrease. And you have some sort of biomarkers like triglycerides. The triglycerides, it's thought that was known that fructose, which is a component of these sugars, is diverted into de novo lipogenesis. Okay, so the body doesn't have very well, it converts straight away to the formation of more fat. So you can see why then there's an increase in triglyceride levels in patients, and those people are consuming a higher amount. Those increase levels of homocysteine, homocysteine, the risk factor for degenerative disease, also a significant increase in that factor as well. So we went on to do some regression analysis. We're using free sugar to predict the variable. So those that highlighted in the green bars, then those are specific effects where we find free sugar can predict the concentrations of these compounds. So you can say that again, triglycerides and HDL. So effect size, that's the effect size, positive association and negative association. It's telling you that the more free sugars you consume, the lower your HDL will be, which is bad risk factor for heart disease. The more free sugars you consume, the higher amounts of triglycerides you will have. Again, risk factor for heart disease. And the same thing with as well. We looked at food, look at food intake as well. So, we chose to look at healthy and non-healthy dietary patterns, basically about weight. You know, healthy on the left, healthy on the right. Again, we found significant effects. So that we should have to predict, negatively predict healthy options. So the more fish sugars you consume, the less metals you consume. The more fish sugars you consume, the more very high effects on as well. So fish sugar intake is associated with either healthy or unhealthy dietary effects. That's not surprising because in the UK, diet, the main source of the sugars are non-alcoholic beverages, sugar, and fuels. So we went on to think, well, okay, what we do now is we give people sucrose and see what the health effects are. So we did this quite a small study, a preliminary study. We give people 40, 80, 120 grams of sugar, sucrose, and water, with our very own idea of the sugar-free beverage for a week. This is continued 20 days per week, and we measured anthropometrics and blood pressure. And what are the effects on body composition? Nothing. No change to body composition, no change to BMI, body fat, body muscle, and body water. But blood pressure is a small but significant increase in blood pressure, but not very small. No effect on dietary intake. There's no dietary effect, I'm not saying over time, there's no effect on overall energy for a week of intervention. As some aspect of awareness, 100% adherence to the intervention, good percentage of the population were knowledgeable about government guidelines, and they were able to estimate their carbohydrate consumption. Yes, on similar. So what we found before, so we found like some cross-sectional data that show that adults are consuming twice as much sugar as should be recommended. It's associated with several mental health parameters. And free sugars are significant predictors of certain health parameters. And in a pyramid study, we found an effect on blood pressure, and that was acceptable to consume 120 grams per day sugar. Where we go next is that we're going to look at effects of sugars can't easily be delineated from increased energy intake. And as sugar directly have any impact on intake in health problems that remains to be seen. And we also want to look at dose response relationship in terms of more clinical markers, for example. That's it. Sorry for going on time.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. I could have followed clearly with regards to sucrose and where it's from foods, but we know fructose will come from fruits, isn't it? And so the challenge is how do you balance that in terms of the fruits that have the sugar, is there a percentage that one should look at as you did in the statistics there?
I think it's very interesting point. I think it's one point where consumers especially are very much not aware of. They all think, yes, fruits contain sugar, therefore, don't tell me I can't contain sugar, I should avoid fruit. That is totally the wrong answer, because the sugar in fruit is within the matrix of food itself. It's not classified as sugar. If you break it down, for example, if you take an orange, you convert it becomes the juice, or misador, you convert that from into a fruit juice. Sometimes do it, you then process the fruit and classify it as sugar. Because then the solution was more bioaccessible for the body to use it. But sugar in terms of fruit is not bioaccessible. Yeah.
So the preliminary finding is that sugar intake that we take from the population.
For a week, yes.
For a week. Would you like to elaborate on that? In terms like, is it something that we will affect? Maybe for a short period of time, or would we expect any change in hospitals?
I think a week is probably doubtful. I think it would need to a longer time period, but you can't think that you can't be into body weight, I think body weight, we look at it needs to know I don't think yeah, you can.
How does physical activity affect sugar intake?
That's a very good question. So it's been shown that fructose, that is the diverted lipid synthesis. But in most people exercise, does not happen. But exercise has a positive effect on the fructose
Thank you. And one more question, this might be the last one.
Thanks very much. Very interesting. What about the effect of all this on government policy? I'm just wondering what the government do about it. Because we've had this epidemic of obesity and for a long time. I'm just wondering how your work is linked into how to lobby the government or change its policies.
Well, I need to do something about it, but then again, we can get usually it's stuck. So this is like you go back again on the word. So to me, I don't understand it. I do not understand what it is. There should be an impact, but they don't get it. They're not.
How do you think you can sort of improve trying to change their mind?
Well, I think people who are policies suggest that, and myself and other researchers who are looking at net effects need to kind of look at them. But you know, that's again, I don't get the politics, but you know, it's all run by money and
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. An interesting point to end on, actually. Okay, thank you very much, John. And moving on to our next speakers, Dr. Cassandra Terry and Marwa Alambaki. The use of natural products for the management of human disease.
That one. And then you have
Click on. Yeah, okay. Just click on which on the slide that you want. Yeah, and then it comes.
Good morning, everybody. Today I'm giving the introduction to my PhD student talk, but she's actually in Iraq working on this at the moment. She did do a recording of her slides, but the sound's not very good, so I'm just going to briefly go over her slides that she's prepared. So I'm just going to start off by giving an overview of the project. My research is involved in understanding human diseases and trying to develop ways of developing therapeutics to try and manage these different conditions. One of these conditions is type 2 diabetes, which I'm going to be talking about today. So you will have seen in shops, in health stores, even supermarkets now, there's a huge array of these natural products which are on the shelf, and in all sorts of forms, tablets, extracts, etc. So it's quite a large area of research now, trying to produce these natural products to try and control our different conditions and trying to prevent many different conditions as well. So this is nothing new. This has been going on for many, many years. And this table just shows many examples of lots of the drugs that we actually take, on a regular basis. Some people, which have been used for many years to control these different conditions. So when I'm talking about these natural health products, I'm talking about things that are herbs, spices, any vitamins, minerals, etc. So anything that's essentially come from plants, also microorganisms, and animals as well. And these different types of natural products can be used on their own as a way to prevent conditions, but also to control them. But they can also be used in combination with conventional medications as well. So there's been lots of studies done showing that actually there's an array of these compounds which can be found in natural products. And on the left here, this just shows the array of natural compounds that have been isolated from various different natural products. And they come in all different sorts. And it's also been shown on the right-hand side, this diagram just shows that there's been lots of different clinical trials which have shown that these different natural compounds actually work in vivo. So they work in animal models and they work in clinical trials with human patients. So this is a growing area of research, and there's lots of evidence showing that these different natural compounds can actually have a beneficial role in preventing and managing disease. So in terms of looking at, when we think of medications and, therapeutics, there are, it's not, one or the other, and we can use them in combination. But in terms of the way that people have researched these natural products and the way that they've developed them, there is a slightly different way in terms of the drug processes which are involved in producing what we call these modern drug developments compared to the natural products. And for example, in natural products, we know that they have an effect clinically, but a lot of the molecular mechanisms of how they're having their effect is not known. So this is sort of in opposition to what we think of when we're looking at conventional synthetic therapeutics which are produced, where they have to be tested clinically, but this tends to be molecules which are produced synthetically. Overall, there's pros and cons from using different, conventional versus natural products. But some of the benefits of using natural products are that they tend to be safer, because they're found in everyday, food stuff. And overall, they can take a lot shorter time to produce because they, we've already got the natural compounds, so it's easy to extract it from that, natural food source. So, using natural products, there is no perfect medication for everyone. Some work better for others. And in terms of using natural products, on the left, you can see here, this graph just shows that where these natural products that have been used in medicines have come from. So a majority of them have come from plants, but they can also come from things such as bacteria and fungi as well. So in terms of some of the challenges with using natural products, as I said, sometimes the molecular mechanisms behind how they're having their effect is not completely clear. So this needs to be investigated further, and also things such as standardization methods of dosing. How much needs to be given to an individual can differ from study to study. So there are different things which do need to be optimized. Other things which are worth considering as well are things such as the accessibility and sustainability of that natural product, and even things such as intellectual property constraints. If you're trying to produce a drug from a natural product, is that going to obviously have any sort of implications in terms of trying to patent it, etc. So in terms of type 2 diabetes, we're looking at type 2 diabetes, which is this inability to produce enough insulin to regulate sugar levels. And there's been many studies which have shown that there are lots of risk factors which are associated with maintaining correct levels of sugar, and obviously then insulin resistance. We know that there are, importantly, many complications which can occur as a result of having type 2 diabetes. So as well as having to give type 2 diabetics drugs to regulate their sugar levels, a lot of the time, many patients are also having to be given lots of different medication to obviously control these different conditions that they get through these complications. Conventional medications, there's a huge array of conventional medications, insulin, metformin, etc., which are the most sort of common medications people are given under this conventional medication. We ran a focus group to find out if people would be willing to take natural medications, and this was with the Haringey type 2 diabetes group, and the majority of them said that they would. And the feedback they gave us was that yes, they would take them, but they wanted to make sure that they were obviously safe, appetizing, and obviously it has an actual effect. So the project that Marvel's been doing is looking at olive leaf extracts as a way of controlling type 2 diabetes. And it's been shown that olive leaf extracts contain a huge array of these phenolic compounds, and the ones in red are the ones that are extracted if you take olive leaves and you extract them with hot water. So this is the basis of the project that she's doing. The majority of the active ingredient is something called this oleuropein, which accounts for at least 70% of the overall composition of the olive leaf long leaf extract, which is given. And this compound, this oleuropein, there's been lots and lots of studies showing that it has a beneficial effect in lots of different conditions, cancer, different inflammatory conditions, and all these different trials that these are, including clinical trials, showing that this compound has a positive role on regulating glucose levels. So this is the basis of the project that she's looking at. And I'm going to move over to her slide now. So what Marvel's been doing is she looked at the levels of diabetes, type 2 diabetes in the world. And in the Middle East, there's actually a very high proportion of individuals who are living with type 2 diabetes. About 1.4 million Iraqis have diabetes, but as we know, a lot of people who have type 2 diabetes go undiagnosed, so the actual figures are probably a lot more than this. So, what Marvel was particularly interested in looking at is looking at individuals in the Iraqi population who are refugees and internally displaced persons. So these are individuals that have been diagnosed as having type 2 diabetes, but because they are internally displaced, it's very difficult to get access to conventional medications. So their diabetes essentially is unregulated. So the novelty of the research that she's doing, at the moment she's actually out there in Iraq collecting this data, is that she is looking at trying to prepare a tea made from olive leaf extract that individuals in Iraq can use as a way of managing their type 2 diabetes. And this is because it's very difficult for many individuals there to get this regular medication for their diabetes. They don't always have access to this healthcare, and a lot of the time they have to pay for their own medication, so they can't actually afford it. So this is also for people who don't like being on diets. And so the number of the study is trying to develop a affordable way of trying to regulate their type 2 diabetes using resources which are available locally. I don't expect you to read all of this, but there are a huge array of inclusion and exclusion criteria for the study that she's doing with the participants which she's managed to recruit in Iraq. And essentially these are all adults over the age of 18 who've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and they are on some kind of what we call conventional medication for their type 2 diabetes. The study involves essentially setting up a health awareness session for the individuals. So having people with this unregulated diabetes and educating them about health awareness of hypoglycemia, and then having two separate groups. So having one group which will be given the olive leaf extract tea, and the control group, which obviously are not going to be given the olive leaf tea, and doing a comparison of this to see, over several months what the effects are on their actual different levels. So what she's been doing is, public and patient involvement. She's set up these focus groups out there in Iraq with these different groups of people, and this public and patient involvement is ongoing. Importantly, what she's also doing is, as well as collecting data, medical data from the participants, she's also collecting other data as well about their perception of using natural products, and getting sort of general feedback about using this type of medication, not only from the participants themselves, but the medical professionals and academics who are out there as well, to see what the feedback is from these different groups who are obviously involved in the management of helping people with type 2 diabetes. And so we can look at if there's any differences in their perception of managing these type of conditions and the sort of medications that they think is appropriate. There's lots of different, as I said, there's lots of different measurements which will be taken from the participants, as well as sort of background lifestyle choices as well. And she will use all this information to analyse and see, what difference, if any, this intervention with the olive leaf actually has on the participants. Obviously, to be careful, this has all gone through ethical approval, but during the study, if there's anyone who has any adverse side effects or anything like that, of course, they will be removed from the study, and they will not be included in the overall analysis. So I'm just going to finish off there. So these last slides are from a PhD student, myself, and then Rena are supervising. So this is Marwa's work, and she's doing this through funding through what's called the Encinas Foundation. And I just want to finish off there by thanking everyone for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cassandra. Thank you for presenting Marwa's work and conclusions as well. Can we have any questions, please, for Cassandra? Yes.
I just wonder what, you were talking about the study they did in Iraq. What about the sort of perception in this country of using this type of approach to treating diabetes?
Yeah, so we were talking about this when we spoke with Mara the other day. We would like to do the same sort of feedback in this country and get some feedback from people in this country to see how it compares to people in different countries, because as we know, there's different cultural differences. So it may be more acceptable in one country compared to another country. And we know that there are some people in this country who think it's all just a load of rubbish, but we know that there is data that shows that, these compounds contain phenolics which do have an anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic effect. So yes, this is something we're talking about. That's something. Yeah.
We've done this kind of preliminary study.
Yeah,
the high engagement as well.
Yeah, the focus group that we did. Yeah, the first trip that we did, we got some preliminary data, but obviously that's a small set. But ideally, we'd like to get data from a large population.
So that, I mean, we had a conference before you came to London, precisely on that topic, with diabetes, about how interested clinicians were about using herbal medicine. This is actually going back 20 years. And we call it lost in translation. But it was quite interesting. There wasn't a lot of interest at that time, but we've moved on 20 years. So we could try to do something like that again.
I think we should, because people's perception, there's more evidence to show that it works now, and the people's perception of using these natural products. It's nothing new, as I said, we've been using like antibiotics and all sorts of stuff for years, and they all have, natural origins, so it's not something new. But yeah, definitely.
No, I can see that you're just
I think, I think it's very interesting, because we just had better Mediterranean answer, but it would be nice to compare it with Nordic countries, for example. Because the perception changes. Because I guess we're kind of coming from Mediterranean countries, we're more used to this kind of health and only. But what about the population that are not used to this?
Yeah.
So is the perception the same? I think so. If anyone is interested about sitting somewhere in the Nordic countries, please send me. Be in touch.
Okay, thank you very much, presenter, for your presentation. Very interesting. Thank you. Okay, so the final presentation for this morning's session is from my colleague Alexandros Samertsi, who's PhD student of psychology and also associate lecturer in the health area. And his presentation today is age-related performance differences in visual cognitive terms.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me today. My name is Alex, and I'm a PhD student in cognitive neuroscience in psychology department. My supervisor is Dr. Yambaku. I will begin of how I started my journey here in this university. First of all, my first supervisor was Professor Kettner, and at that time she was doing cognitive psychology, and we decided to do an experiment that was concluded in cognitive science. So the name of the experiment was essentially, what we found was that the caffeine and nicotine consumers, after the task, after they have completed the task, the blood pressure decreased. So we decided to pause. Then another question, and we asked ourselves, could the same effect happen for other ages? Which led me to recruiting in the PhD. So in the PhD area, I decided to expand a little bit on the visual task. So I included the attention blink task, another working memory task, a visual sense task, and cognitive speech task. So the way to do it is, the university is amazing, so they have a lot of licenses for programming software. So the first software that I used, because obviously I had to do the study behind, so we used Testable. And Testable was actually a very good software that someone can use and can recruit participants all around the world. And it's very easy to use. Someone can do the coding online, or other, you can also download it in Excel spreadsheet and actually do the coding there. I think there are 2 slides missing. Oh, okay. So there were 2 previous slides I wanted to show. I'm going to talk about them very quickly. One of them is the attentional blink task. The way it looks, you are presented with a rapid serial visual presentation, and you have to find 2 white targets. Okay, so the participant has to actually answer to a question: how many targets have you seen? And if you have identified the white target. So two questions. It measures only accuracy, not the reaction times, because the question can last a little bit longer than the other task. The working memory task, which is not on the slide again, sorry about that. The working memory task is I present shapes, and all these shapes are in the center of the screen. They are all different, and the amount of structures are from 3 to 5. There is always one change. So the participants have to identify in the second slide whether there was a change before in the color or position, or if there was not. And so they have to be accurate and fast in order to measure the reaction times. Next is the visual sales task. So the visual sales task that I created was I found the paper online basically, and the visual sales is when you have to identify one kind of target inside of a lot of instructions. So we created a condition, the participants have to find out where the blue letter is. Right? And the next one to measure the cognitive speed was to basically keep the space bar when the dot appears on the screen. So the faster you do it, the less the reaction time will be. Pretty easy tasks. They take around 40 minutes to do, and I assure you they're not really easy when you actually do them. So the first round of the results, we found some significant results. Not the age of the mediator specifically, but we found that there were the actual attention bleed effect and the lag effect that we were looking at for the attention bleed task. Okay? For the visual working memory task, we had the 3 levels of difficulty, and people were actually performing worse when there were more distracted presenting on the screen, which was also predicted. For the visual sets, again, there were no significant differences across the group, so people from 18 to 75 were actually doing around the same millisecond time. And for cognitive speed, again, we didn't find any differences in the reaction time. So the next steps that we are currently working in with Dr. Yambo, who were very busy in January and February. So right now we're in the process of recruiting participants. The way we will be doing it is I will be using some equipment I will show you in the next slide. Before that, I would like to mention that while I was working with the project in public health as an assistant, I learned a lot of new things. So when I was doing another set, and I was looking into other physiological factors that affect our blood pressure, which we'll be analyzing in the second and third phase. I was looking into structure. I wanted to do a meta-analysis and a schematic review to actually see, okay, are these actually connected? Do we think that, for example, our brain waves are connected to the blood pressure? Is it a predictor? Is our sleep a predictor? Yep. For me, it's a very interesting question. So the next methods that we will be using, again, I've done a schematic review. I found some studies that they actually predict that people can have lower cognitive performance in terms of the Atlantic synapses while meditating assistance. Okay. I also found that slow wave sleep is associated with hypertension. So try to regulate your sleep in order to decrease the blood pressure as much as you can. And we also found the eye movement, which is a biomarker now. It hasn't been before because the technology didn't give us this advantage. So right now, the university purchased an eye tracker machine. These are the glasses that you can wear. You can actually look at the screen, and I'll show you in the next slide how it looks like. So that's the eye tracker when you do the data analysis. So basically, the more you look at one point, the more it shows the less color. Okay? So this in a supermarket is what actually where people are focusing when they're buying stuff. So this is more professional psychology, but for us it's interesting because it's associated with blood pressure. Okay? It can also be a prediction. So that's how the encephalogram looks like. There is a treatment machine that actually, when someone wears a hat, shows us blameless. And where I'm working is it's a very silent room, basically. So someone, when they come in, they have to be no noise, we have to eliminate all the noise and have around. So we can have this kind of data. So it's very, very difficult to actually have this kind of framework. Usually it's more messy than that. And the reason is, the reason I've been doing this, as I explained, we have to include in the application of the blood pressure and other physiological factors. And the only issue that we found was that the test was not compatible with our new devices, because they were actually new and we didn't know which software we were using. So now again, I have to go from the beginning and actually reprogram all the experiments to Python language and use Psychopath, which is also based on the university. Thank you very much. Yeah. So right now we are at the stage of recruiting participants. I'll be sending around an invitation in a couple of weeks or next week. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Alex. It's very interesting to hear about your work. Are there any questions for Alex this morning? Yes, Chief.
Just a very simple question. Could you just tell us what's the age group that you're talking about? We had 3 different.
Yes,
What's
so
the age?
it's from 18 to 75.
And then the 3 age groups.
Yeah, it's from 18 to 35, 36 to 60, and then from 60 to 75. The reason being is the way I'm splitting these groups is because in the first phase I included 55 to 60 in the middle group, and then we didn't find a lot of effects. So I will split them in another way for the next phase. So yes, there are 3 groups, 18 to 35, 50 to 60, and 51 to 75.
Like if you have to say it,
Yeah, so the gender differences that I found in my bachelor's year, the manuscript that we actually published, I was very glad about that as well. We found that females who consume coffee, they have better cognitive performance. Just for the just during the attention, yeah. Because we have also memory, search, and speed as well. So we need to still find to see if there are any kind of gender effects there.
Yes.
I just wondered, are you looking at any other parameters? You mentioned blood pressure right at the beginning. Are you going to measure that or anything else?
So
you mentioned blood pressure
yes.
At the very beginning, and what the effect on.
Yeah, so right now in this one, we're doing the phase 2 and phase 3. I couldn't do in phase 1 because the study was done, but I couldn't potentially ask them to measure the blood pressure and later because, we didn't know if they actually take that effect or if they results.
So are you going to measure it?
Yes, of course. It's the inside.
John? Yes.
Yeah, I just wondered if you've got a control for dietary intake.
I was thinking about that, but then if I start, we will have a much more test by with a lot of variables. I will ask my supervisor basically. We might include a question about sugars and fructose, for example, Josefine. We might do that too, because I had a friend as well in nutrition, so some of the performance. We think about it.
Like a coffee there and chocolate as well.
I specified coffee without sugar.
Okay, any more before we finish for the morning? Okay, thank you very much, Alan, for your presentation. Thank you to all our presenters this morning. It's been a really interesting and full programme, very thought-provoking. I do want to try the olive tea. I'm wondering what it tastes like. I'm wondering what...
They're tasting it now, so
Oh, right, okay. Keep me posted when you